Y'all ready? Ladies and rolling a certain live TV here. Good evening, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started with this evening's board meeting. Welcome everybody here. I appreciate your time in coming this evening. And we'll start with Mr. Jones, if you will, lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you don't mind reading the mission statement for Clay County Schools, please.
The mission of Clay County Schools is to build high-quality learning environments that ensure all students learn at high levels.
It's April 28th.
And the only announcement that we have is our next board meeting will be April the 28th and not January. Your agenda says January, but that's April the 28th. So, and I'll entertain a motion that we approve the agenda as it's presented. I guess with that change to April the 28th, I was up there. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Ms. Crawford, is there a second to that? Ms. Caldwell seconds. All in favor? Thank you. So, is there any no public comment? Okay. So, no public comment for this evening. We'll jump right into the reports, Ms. Godfrey, if you want to.
I did want to mention we had previously planned to have some recognitions tonight, but track meets interfered with that, so we have postponed those. We were going to recognize the middle school all-state chorus. We had quite a few kiddos go to that, but Miss Moss needed to be at the track meet, and several of those participants were at the track meet, so we have held off on that. So just a few updates I want to share with you. First, I want to share with you some of the updates from our most recent construction meeting regarding the new school, and just kind of go over what's happened this past month. They have continued installation of storm drainage. The rock gym and the temporary boiler is now connected to the new water line, so that's exciting. The pavilion that was out in the center of this courtyard has been demolished. They used it for as long as they could for storage, but then eventually had to take it down. They've continued pouring concrete footings, continued with the masonry stem walls. The electricians have installed underground electrical conduits, so you can see those sticking up. And then if you've been by the bus garage, you'll see that they're working on grading the slope there. We've been able to use some of that dirt and move it over onto the site, and so that's what's gone on this last month. The weather has been in our favor recently, so they've been knocking it out and getting it done. So next month, the plan is to continue with storm drainage in the sewer, continue pouring footings, continue with the masonry stem walls, continue with grading and fill. The plumbers will begin roughing in under slab plumbing, and then also they'll be connecting the middle school at this building to the new water line. So those are things that are coming up. I think they did some of that work even over the weekend. This next picture is from November. You guys might remember this picture from November when the retaining wall was getting close to being complete. I wanted to give you that as a comparison point to this month's picture, which is next. That is that same retaining wall now with all of the fill done, and so that was an enormous amount of dirt, but it has really taken shape and looks very nice. We just want to give you that as a comparison point. So a few other pictures. That I believe is the corner of the cafeteria kitchen, I should say. The next one, you can just kind of see when we talk about there's a lot of things going in you can't see. This is just kind of some of those things that have been going in, preparing for those foundations. But it is exciting as you look to see, you can start to see the building taking shape and kind of see where things are actually positioned on the lot, and so it's been exciting to see. I think there's maybe one more, yeah. So those are just a few pictures I wanted to share with you. It is amazing the difference from month to month, and so I enjoy sharing those pictures with you so you can see it as well. Just to share some good news from the last month, we were awarded the safety grant, and we applied for almost $300,000 We received $100,000 for equipment, and so that's the most we've ever received, and we're very thankful for that. We have a plan for what we're going to spend those funds on, but our priority with that is equipping the radios on the buses. And so once we get that done, we'll see what we have remaining and focus on some of our other priorities. We also received $44,000 in addition to that as part of the safety grant for personnel. And what we applied for is to have a designated person through pace setters that will be assigned to our campus. And so we're super excited. We have a few hurdles with that. Right now, the deadline for expending those funds is June 30th, and it was awarded to us February 26th. So that's a very short turnaround to spend that kind of money, especially if you run into any kind of delays with work or shipping materials. But anyway, we're doing our best. Dr. Clapsaddle and I have worked very hard over the last month to complete the Golden Leaf Grant submission. An application. We submitted that on Friday. It was a little over 60 pages in total, and we are hopeful that we will be considered for that. There are two different cohorts that are being awarded. One is for low-performing middle schools, and one is for non-low-performing middle schools, which is the cohort we applied for. It is on average $380,000 that goes mostly for coaching and professional development, and is based on Marzano's high reliability practices. And so we're excited and hopeful. We did receive an email that there had not been as many grants for that particular cohort submitted, so we're hoping that is good for us. There's a lot of work went into that. Last week on Friday, the North Carolina Teacher of the Year, her name is Heather Smith. She visited us. There's a picture of her in Christy Caruso's biomed class. She is from Waynesville, so she's a Western region gal, and it was delightful to share with her what's going on in Clay County schools. She is serving as an advisor to the governor, so I was able to share with her some of our most pressing needs and things that hopefully she can put a plug in for us. So other good news, the primary school hosted a family STEM night. I got to attend that with my kindergartner. We had a great time. It was a fabulous event, very well coordinated. There were 97 kids and 78 family members in attendance, so it was a great event. The elementary school hosted their second annual Amazing Shake. If you guys will remember, that's where kids are walking into various social situations that are unfamiliar and maybe a little bit awkward, and they have to practice how to respond in those situations. And so in those situations, they're practicing the skills that they've been focusing on as their character traits of the week. So they worked on integrity. There was one scenario that was specific to integrity, one that was specific to self-control. And it was just really fun to see that, and that's a huge undertaking. We have to have a lot of volunteers to run those stations, and so it was just really fun to see it in action. And when Miss Teague is here, I'm sure she'd love to share about that. She's home taking care of a little one with the flu. So we have had 2 middle school track records broken over the last month. One was Eli Cheeks in the 800, and one was Brett Hanna in the 400. So we're super excited for them, and we're just getting started with track. We still got quite a few meets to go. So there's some exciting things from the high school. Eli Jack, class of 26, was selected for the Tar Heel Boys state. That is thanks to American Legion Post 532. Dalton Hunt, class of 26, was selected for the Washington Youth Tour. That's thanks to Blue Ridge Mountain EMC. Will Jennings qualified for the regionals in air rifle competition, which will be in Alabama in April. And Ann and Grace Gibson were selected for UNC Pembroke Honors Band. So there's been a lot of stuff going on with our high schoolers, and we're super proud of that. There's a few upcoming events I want to talk about, but before I get to that, I want to mention some information that you all might need to know, and that's regarding child nutrition funding. There was a source of funding for child nutrition. It's called Local Foods for Schools funding, and that allows us to specifically purchase locally grown products. So for us, that was North Carolina apples, blueberries, strawberries, and Brasstown beef. And so we were allotted $6,000 this year in that fund, and we have already spent it. We were notified it would not be replenished next year, which is certainly disappointing to us. There was some information circulating on social media this weekend from Clay County, and there was some misunderstanding that we lost $200,000 in funding, and there was some concern about our ability to feed kids. We're still operating under CEP, the Community Eligibility Provision, and we're still providing free breakfast and lunch to everybody. So there's no concern about that program at this time. So certainly $6,000 is a lot of money, and we're disappointed, but at the same time, our mission to feed children hasn't changed. And so I just wanted to clarify that in case the public or any of you had questions about that. Some upcoming things just to note: kindergarten registration is happening this week. So if you all know anyone that needs to be registering for kindergarten, we've got 3 days of kindergarten registration going on. And Ms. Clemens would be happy for anyone to call and make an appointment if you know of any kiddos that are eligible for kindergarten. I will be visiting the North Carolina General Assembly on Wednesday of this week. This is an advocacy day, and I'm specifically going with the intent of asking for an increase in small schools funding. We have not had an increase in 11 years, and that's a really important, critical fund for us that has been, because we pay a lot of hourly salaries out of that. When that was moved to $15 an hour, but that pot didn't get any bigger, it obviously is not going as far. And so I'm excited. I have meetings planned with Senator Corbin and and Mr. Gillespie, and so I'm excited to talk with them and advocate for our small schools. The Be Pro, Be Proud truck will be here this week. I believe it was getting set up this afternoon, and so it'll be here on site this week. We have also signed up to participate and bring a legislator to school. That week is happening in April, and so we're hopeful we'll have more involvement of our legislators here in Clay County during that time. We are working to plan a Parents Night Out on April the 4th. I included the flyer there. This was really kind of a win-win situation for us. I recognize that when we have delays or cancellations, that's very difficult on our parents, and that always weighs heavily on my mind when we're making these decisions. But I will say that our community has been so incredibly kind and gracious and understanding with what has been a difficult winter. And so we wanted to just show our gratitude to our families, and so we're sponsoring a Parents Night Out. This will be for pre-K through 5th grade, and so parents can drop kids off at 5 o'clock and pick them up at 8, and we're trying to work on getting local restaurants to give discounts to participating families, and so it'll hopefully be a win-win for the community. It also allows those who maybe were running short on hours to gain back some additional time for those days that we had to miss for weather. So I think we have close to 50 kids already signed up, and we just sent it out on Saturday, so we're really excited about that event. And then the middle school is also hosting a sim night on April the 8th, and so I'm looking forward to that. I know it'll be a great event. So lots happening, lots going on leading up to spring break, so we're excited. Any questions for me about any of those things?
Questions or comments?
Can you tell us a little bit about the Be Proud, Be Pro truck?
Yes, and Mr. Oberlin can probably answer that a bit better than I can, but Ravonda Palmer through CTE has arranged for that. It's been here before, a year or two ago?
Last year.
Was it last year? Okay. And so can you explain more about what happens with that?
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be here the rest of the week. So for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all the high school students, every student will have a chance to go through, and it has the hands-on simulators so students can learn what it's like to operate heavy machinery. They'll have a big screen in front of them with the controls. You know, it is like almost like a flight simulator or something like that for a lot of CTE type of jobs. It's really, really cool, and the kids really like it. And I believe on Friday is when the 8th grade will have a chance to do that. So, you know, it's kind of a win to get this 2 years in a row. Ravonda's worked hard to do that, so we're really excited about it.
Yeah. And I had the opportunity to do
Didn't you do it last year?
Was that last year?
No,
Oh, I thought you did.
my wife did, not me.
I had the opportunity to do a simulator of a combine at the Ag Day, and so those are super fun. So I'm excited that our kids are going to have the opportunity to do that as well. Any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Cole.
Good,
Thank
thank you.
All right. I'm
Well,
next.
Staff
too.
Wellness Day.
So one of the most exciting things that's happened over the last month was our Staff Wellness Day. This was our 3rd annual Staff Wellness Day, and so I'm excited to report to you. I know you have the gist of how this day looks, and so I won't belabor the point, but our purpose in planning this is to promote physical and mental wellness by providing screeners, resources, and educational opportunities for staff. You can see there's a picture of 3 of our staff members in the foods room. They were doing a session by 4-H that was on mocktails that are specific to energy. So giving our staff different things that they can drink in the morning or throughout the day that'll give them a boost of energy. So. Our goals in this is obviously participation. We want to remove barriers. So we know that oftentimes teachers don't take time off to go take care of their own doctor's appointments, getting blood work done, those kinds of things, because it's just hard to be out. And so we want to remove barriers and bring those things to them here on campus. We wanted to incentivize participation through door prizes. So the more things you participated in, the more likely you were to win a prize. We did a pre-survey during event planning to kind of cater to the interest of our staff and find out what they wanted us to offer. A huge part of this is to build morale, and just the month of March is hard. It's been a while since Christmas, and it's still a while to spring break, and so it's just an opportunity to kind of give our teachers a boost during what is kind of a difficult time of year. Obviously, we just want to focus on wellness and make sure that our staff and teachers are taking care of themselves. And also, we just want to plan with the future in mind. And so each of these events allows us to find out better how to serve our staff. So just some opportunities that are available. We offer blood work. The health department comes here, is on site. There's hearing and vision screenings. You can have your blood pressure checked. You can check your BMI and your water intake. We have phenomenal community resources that come and provide booths and do giveaways. We had some great booths this year. They were fantastic. You can have a hand-arm massage with a collagen treatment. We do chair massages. This year's we had facials. We added in facials this year. You can do a makeup tutorial, floral design, gardening, crochet. We did canning. So lots of things. Some kind of new stuff that we had added this year was clogging. We did clogging. There was barbecue, like smoking techniques, essential oils, travel tips, bird watching, financial advising, Appalachian storytelling, calligraphy. And for some of these sessions, we had our own people offering them, which is really fun to learn from our own. And so Adriana Deaver did calligraphy, and Amanda Thompson did bird watching, and Anissa did clogging, and John Hensley did storytelling, and Beth Leopard did a dance class. So that's just to name a few. We also had a session on workouts you can do at home with no equipment. We did yoga, there's pickleball, dance classes. There was a session on quick healthy breakfast, because we know that's an easy time to skip out on your nutrition. Smoothies, we had painting, there were dogs on site for pet therapy, so it was really fun. This year we mixed it up a little bit, and in the past we've done kind of Chick-fil-A box lunches, and so one, we wanted to do something a bit maybe on the healthier side, and two, we know that in this crazy winter our child nutrition program has lost a lot of revenue, because when we're not feeding kids, we're not getting those reimbursements. And our staff members, when we don't have school, they're also losing days. And so this was an opportunity for us to offer catering through our cafeteria, which gives some money back to the program, but also allowed these ladies another day of employment. So, and it was delicious. So we got rave reviews. They offered a salad, baked potato bar, and soup. So we had chili and broccoli cheese soup. So it was great. And I think it kind of made it feel very homey and versus just picking up a box lunch. So I thought that was very sweet. We did survey our staff after the event, and 100% of the respondents rated the event a 4 or 5, which we were very excited about. So we had a few hiccups, which is probably what led to some of those being rated a 4, but we're going to focus on the positives for now. This is our blood work results. So for those who got blood work done, 74% of the individuals tested at a higher risk for heart disease. 58% tested with elevated cholesterol numbers. 32% of individuals had blood levels that indicated prediabetes or diabetes. And 70% had little to no improvement from previous blood work. So that just tells us that there continues to be a need for our staff to be focusing on their own wellness, and that we need to prioritize that as a district and how we care for the people that serve our children. So, just some feedback. We did ask staff in our post survey, what was your favorite thing about the day? And so I put just a few snippets here. I know you would rather me tell you one specific part of the day, but I can't. All parts were equally amazing. The whole day was amazing. I think it gets more organized and runs smoother each year. It was all wonderful just being able to sit and chat for extended periods of time with people from other buildings that we don't get to see as much was great. That facial, though, amazing. Loved the games at the end of the day. The time I spent with other coworkers in the moment and a clear mind, just focused on the class and not in my head planning the next thing I had to do on my daily list. I loved the lunch. It was great to see our staff use to feed us, and the broccoli cheese soup was amazing. I enjoyed all of it. I felt like everyone was happy and enjoyed the freedom to be together in different groups and see different staff members in different settings. And the camaraderie, no stress, opportunity for silly fun. We did ask the question too, how can we improve? One of the suggestions was more outdoor activities, maybe a walk outside on the nature trail. We did have a walking challenge on the track, but maybe something that's more in, on the nature trails. There was a thought to consider including breakfast to start the day. There was lots of comments about coffee being available, so we took note of that. The only thing that I can think of adding is an afternoon dose of ibuprofen after all that movement, and longer massages if only. There's some pictures at the bottom, on this next page. That first group is doing calligraphy. You can see on the bottom, Colby is taking a break from pickleball there. And then that other picture on the right is the Decades Dance class. I saw a video of them. They were killing it in there. Here you see we've got floral design going on the top. We had our student enterprises there selling their goods. So Ms. Judy Jennings' class was there selling their products, their dog treats and other products that they had for sale. And I think they sold quite a few, so I think it was a good day for them. Then we've got crochet there. Then down on the bottom, we see another dance class. That was with Shelly Gordon of Star Dance. We had a dodgeball tournament in the afternoon. I'm happy to say I was on the winning team. That's our championship photo there. You can see Keisha McClure there. She was one of our door prize winners. Next ones, you can see some of the massages. We actually had chair massages, and a couple of our providers brought table massages. So that one on the bottom is actually me getting a table massage. So it was very nice. And then you can see the clogging class, the animals, the pets. And then what I love about on this top right on this slide, that is Kim Terrell. With Cooperative Extension, and she is doing education about the things that will really boost your energy throughout the day. And so there really is an education part of her class. And then you can see the hand massages with the collagen gloves. And the next few slides, this first one are all of the local businesses and individuals that donated door prizes. Pretty much everyone that participated got a door prize. I mean, it was really great. We were so blessed with great door prizes. We had t-shirts to give away and all the things, and so it was really great. The next slide are, we had so many presenters that we had to have 2 slides just for our presenters. And so the first one you can see there, I won't name all of these, but these are just all the people that came together to provide this. And then the next slide continues those that were on site to make this possible. And all of these people are donating their time. With the exception of some of the massage therapists, but all of this was volunteering, and we're very thankful. And the last slide just tells you who's on the staff wellness team, and I can say, because I'm on that team, that these individuals work tirelessly to make this event happen, and it gets pretty intense. Especially as the event gets closer, and lots of work goes into it. And so I'm especially proud of our staff members who pulled this off, and really excited. We are planning to do the same as we did last year and do an encore day, which is really just devoted to physical activity during the teacher work days. And that's when we do, pickleball and 3-on-3 basketball and some volleyball and do those kinds of things as we wrap up the year. So, do you guys have any questions about that?
Any questions or comments about any of that? Good stuff, thank you. So next we have the action portion of the agenda, and we'll start with the 2025-2026 budget request. Ms. Hollingsworth has that.
So it's that time of year again, to start planning for next year before we've ended this year. It's always quite a challenge to go ahead and start the budget when we don't even have everything pinned down from the state level, but we do the best we can to anticipate what's going to happen at the state level, so we can ask the county for our needs for next year. The first slide, we have the sustainability items for the current budget. These are the items that we need to request from the county just so we can continue to pay the 1.5% local supplement. That's $4,066. $2,949, that's a portion of a salary that we have to pay from local, because we can't pay that portion of the salary from the CTE funding, the state funding, or their federal funding. $4,373, that's part of a tech support staff salary and benefits. $3,774, transportation staff salary and benefits. Those are all salaries that we pay out of the local current expense fund. I went off prior year trends as far as what we can anticipate for budget projections for the 3% state minimum salary increase, and then 0.98% less than 1% increase in the state retirement, and that's just going by historically every year how much the retirement rate increases, and then approximately a 5% increase in employer paid health insurance. Another item, $45,124, that's to continue the $500 local supplement. What we did this year was we were given those funds in county capital outlay appropriation, but we had to move those over to local to be able to fund this supplement. So we are asking that to become a permanent part of the local current expense fund appropriation, and because since we want that to be a recurring supplement to those staff members. And an additional $15,292 for utilities, and that's based on a projected 3% electricity increase.
That 45,000, you're saying not to make that capital outlay, just make that a recurring?
Make that a recurring
local
appropriation instead of doing it to capital outlay and then us having to transfer it over every year. On the next page are local budget additions, and I'm going to let Ms. Godfrey kind of pitch in with this one. She can tell you a little bit about some of the background for some of these.
Sure, yeah. So the first one is an athletic trainer. For years we were provided an athletic trainer, but through local medical professionals. However, that's no longer the case. Erlanger is willing to work with us, but we will be required to pay the salary on that. And we are the only school in the conference without an athletic trainer. So we're staying legal by having a first responder, but it's and he does a phenomenal job. It's just not quite the same as having somebody that is a certified athletic trainer. We've also had some scary moments this year with some injuries, and I think it is important for us to have an athletic trainer here for our events. We currently have, in light of ESSER and how the positions we lost with the loss of ESSER funds, we did try to balance things out among our schools. So we currently have one assistant principal that's split between primary and elementary, and we have another assistant principal that's split between the middle school and high school. But what we've seen after doing that is that is very much a need at primary and elementary. And so I definitely think that was a wise move for them. But I also know that when you look at the discipline and behavior that we're facing with middle school and high school, and just all the extra things that go into middle school and high school, whether it's athletics or other school events, there is definitely a need for a full-time assistant principal at the middle school and the high school. And so we have put in a request here for an additional assistant principal position. We also put in a request for an instructional coach that could be shared between the primary and elementary school. As you know, this is something we had during ESSER and we lost that, but it is critical for us to be able to support our teachers. They have very limited planning time. Most days our teachers get about 40 minutes in the elementary school, and there's a tremendous amount of planning that goes into when you teach all the subjects. And so we're really missing that position. We're really feeling those positions not being there. And so if we could even just have one instructional coach to split would be a huge help to us. And then the last two are regarding sustainability of one-to-one devices. So we currently do not have a sustainability plan for replenishing our iPads at HPS and our Chromebooks in elementary, middle, and high. And so these dollars would allow us, particularly the Chromebook, to buy a new set of Chromebooks for 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade, and then those would just move up with the students. And so as they transition from schools, we would have a sustainability plan for those. But if you were to go into any of our classrooms and take a look at the Chromebooks that are being used, our tech department is doing everything they can to keep those up and running, but they do have a lifespan, and we're seeing the end of that lifespan. And so we are going to have a plan in place so that we can be replenishing those. And we were able to do that last through ESSER funds, but it continues to be a need, and we don't have a funding source for that.
So the total amount, go ahead.
Well, I was just going, would that allow those graduating seniors to take, like if they purchased that, or not they, but if they were provided that as a 9th grader, they're going to carry that Chromebook all the way through, would they be allowed to take that with them as a graduate, or would that fall back in just as a surplus?
I would let Mr. Jeffrey speak to that, but my thought would be yes, because when it's nearly at end of life anyway,
right.
But we would be replenishing those for the incoming ninth graders.
9th graders.
So it would be an easy way to pass that on to them, at least getting them started in college. Would you agree with that?
Right.
That's the plan. Yes.
That would be the plan.
Yes.
Okay.
So for all those together, the budget additions and the request for the sustainability of current items we already have in the budget, that's a total local funding increase of $497,365 for a total county appropriation of $2,370,405.
That's ESSER funds or COVID funds?
Yes.
That relaxes, just as a reminder of that.
So that next page, this is just to break it down and show you how that actually impacts the actual budget. It's kind of similar to what you see when we do budget amendments, just to give you a better idea of how that actually affects those different line items. So it's pretty much the same information that was on the previous slides. So on the next one, we've got some historical data for you. The local current expense fund, I did 2020 through 2024. Right now, at the end of 2024, we had $222,528 in our total fund balance. But it's also important to remember, even though that's what we have in our total fund balance, the total fund balance is subject to restrictions and may not be available for use. The total fund balance is basically all of the local current expense fund, and you'll sometimes hear me refer to that as Fund 2. So that's the only fund that goes into that calculation. However, the state stabilization requirement, where it requires us to consider all payables and receivables at fiscal year end. So that's anything June 30th that we don't receive billing for until July 1, or any funds that were due to us for June 30th, that we don't receive those funds until July 1, we have to count against our total fund balance. And what happens is all of those funds are considered. Even though that's only Fund 2 fund balance, it makes us count Fund 2, Fund 4, which is capital outlay, and Fund 8, which is a special revenue fund against that. And Fund 8 houses a lot of larger grants and Medicaid reimbursements, or Medicaid administrative and claiming money. And some of those don't come in until after July 1, so that has to count against what we have available to actually use in our budget for the next year. So that's important to kind of keep that in mind. So we don't have that available necessarily to use in our budget for the upcoming year. Don't have any questions on that? I know it's confusing. So just to give you a appropriation history on the next slide, you can see where we were in 2020. Our total appropriation was $1,522,000. Last year it was, or the current year we're in now, it's $1,873,040. And then, you know, it's our hope that they appropriate what we have asked for, and that would be $2,370,405. So then we have our capital outlay request. The first item has been a recurring request over the past few years. It's been a couple of years since we've actually had that quote, but we also, what I did was took into consideration inflation over the past few years and added that to the quote from a few years ago to come up with a good total to use for that request. But the parking area down there at the high school, the underclassmen parking area, it has not been resurfaced in 25 plus years, probably getting closer to 30 or more years. And of course, you all know why it's important to resurface those surfaces, cracks and potholes. It could be an accident, safety concern. You've got student drivers just learning to drive, and it creates a liability for school system if it's not repaired. The next item, of course, is the football field turf. We know that's something that has been on the horizon for some time. The current football field turf has been in use since at least 2012, so we're getting very close to that time where we've got to do something about replacing that. Our football field is widely used by our PE departments, our athletic programs, and our community as well. The total estimated cost of this project is around $838,000. We could possibly contribute about $266,500 from our lottery funds. The lottery funds has a little more flexibility as far as using it on your grounds than the repair and renovations funds do. And that would still leave us a little bit of money sitting in our lottery funds for other projects that we may not be able to use R&R funds for. The next item is a skid steer. This has been a recurring ask for the past few years. I think in the past few years we did pricing for a brand new one, but I worked with Mr. Livers and we found some pricing for some used ones that had the attachments that he would need. That's $38,700. And then an activity bus is needed with a lift installed to accommodate special needs students for field trips. We currently don't have activity bus that has that. We did work through a situation a few weeks ago where we were able to use the yellow bus to accommodate a student. However, we are limited at using a yellow bus for those type activities. They would have to return during the school day, you know, and not disrupt our morning and afternoon routes. And also, we can't take them over state lines. So that's why that is an important need. So that brings our request for capital outlay funds to $883,841.
So can the lottery funds be used for that total amount of 883, or is that just, is the lottery funds just for the first
We don't have
part?
enough in the lottery
We
funds.
Right,
took
but
that off
that,
because the total is 800 and something, 838.
so the 266,
So we'd commit about
Can just go to the top part.
$266,500, so ask the county for the $575,511.
okay,
So
I
what
see
we
what
put
you're
for the
saying. I
turf
see what
is
you're
Yeah.
saying. Okay,
575.
okay, sorry.
We went ahead and
Oh,
took
no,
it
that's
off.
fine. It's a lot of math.
I too wanted to say about the activity bus. We currently have 5 students who are unable to get onto a school bus due to orthopedic issues. And so that's a growing need for us, and we want to make sure that those students have access to all the field trips and activities that we provide.
Are we not supposed to be having that type of bus anyway from Raleigh? Isn't that a rule?
So we do have it for a yellow bus, but
Yes, but I'm talking about activity.
but the
Is that a
activity bus
different-
follows local. None of our activity buses are provided from the state. They're all provided by local.
Yes, I know, but what I was saying is, by law, we're supposed, it's just kind of like a apartment, two-story apartment, or one of our buildings. We have to have an elevator to get that kid up if they are wanting to go to another class above or down below. That's what I'm asking. We're required by law to have an activity bus.
So we're required by law to make sure things are accessible. So how we've currently done that is through transportation contracts where we have paid the family to provide that transportation.
Okay.
So that's how we've previously done it, but we're at a point where there are families who may not have reliable transportation and cannot do that. So because we are in a position where I don't want to ever not be able to meet a student's needs, I feel like it's time to ask for those things.
I believe that
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
I do too, but it seems like to what Danny was saying was, it seemed like we could receive some sort of other funding to ensure that we have that.
I did call DPI and ask a lot of questions, and they gave me some suggestions, but none of those suggestions have panned out. So one of the things they asked about, or one of the things they suggested, was trying to partner with your county transportation. So I called the county transportation, and they only transport out of county for medical appointments. And so we've kind of explored some options. There's an opportunity to look at purchasing a used bus or things like that. But when you look at the used bus inventory, most of them have 250,000 miles or more. So I think this is going to be a need we're always going to have. So I don't think it makes sense to just buy something that's at its life's end.
And another caveat to that too is we are willing to look at options to maybe lease purchase for 3 to 5 years if we needed to do that, to break it up in installments where the county is not providing all of those funds at once.
This price for 158,860. That is a brand new bus.
That is a brand new one.
Okay.
Yes.
And is other kids allowed to be on the handicap? I mean, like a class that has handicap and the other children, and they're allowed to be on that bus? I mean,
So this bus is a 72 passenger. It's a 2026 bus with 72 passengers. So,
Okay.
so we would just make sure that if there was a need for that lift, that bus was reserved specifically for the classes that need it. But we have 2 students at primary, 2 at elementary, 1 at high school, I believe. It's a breakdown. There's 5 total across campus. Yeah. It's just a growing need. So we've been able to be in compliance, but our ability to do that is becoming more limited. Also, to Shelley's point about the yellow bus, we did use the yellow bus for a recent field trip to Tri-County, but we are required to pay $4 per mile to use that bus, and it can only be used in state. And as you said, between it has to be back because it's one of our regular route buses. So,
It's very
Yes.
limited.
it's limited. Yeah.
Other questions on the capital? On the next page, you'll see I've got some data on where we stand with our lottery, the ADM funds, and the repair and renovation funds. The estimated lottery funds as of June 30th should be around $295,676. We get annual distributions. They usually distribute those quarterly throughout the year. We get anywhere between $85,000 and $90,000 every year for that. Some of the future projects, gravel at the primary school on the shoulders of both sides of the drives coming into the drop-off area. This is to provide more parking during after-hours events. That's gonna be around $3,000 to $5,000, just depending on the price of gravel when we do actually get ready to do that. The football field turf, of course, we just talked about that. Lottery funds can help offset that cost of the turf. We can contribute, and it's a little more than 25% of that total estimated cost. I think it comes out to more like 30%. But $266,500 to leave us some funding for other projects that we can't use R&R funds for. So if we have to do any upgrades to playgrounds or other areas, like to accommodate special needs kids or any other children, we can't use R&R for that. R&R is restricted to the classroom facility, not playgrounds or outside grounds areas. Then we have ADM funds. The ADM funds requires a match, and as of February 27th of 25, we had $51,180, and of course the use of these funds require $1 match in county funds for every $3 in ADM funds that we spend. I'm not sure if we have that same flexibility with those funds to use towards the football field turf, but that's a possibility if we're allowed to use those, because we would have, if they agreed to do so, we would have that match in place. So we could also pair that with those funds if we needed to. The estimated public school building repair and renovations funds as of June 30th should be around $1.2 million. These funds are restricted repairs and renovations to actual classroom buildings. And DPI has given us a list to kind of go by: enlargement and expansion of classroom facilities, improvements to classroom facilities, equipment purchases for classroom facilities, project planning and design fees. That's what all those funds could be used for, and they're very restricted to the actual facility itself. Some outstanding projects that we have that I've already reduced from the total amount I feel like we'll have towards the end of June. There's some HVAC repairs and service for our air and heat and air units, $54,211. Middle school and high school, the gym floors to rescreen and recoat, $13,255. And then some bleacher repairs that we had to have after the bleachers were inspected, $6,061. Some future projects that we have up for consideration: at the primary school, we need to install some more of those wall boards in other areas of the school. That's going to be around $24,524. We would like to paint the high school gym. Those bids came in right at $40,000. The boiler replacement, we still have 6 campus-wide that we need to replace, $270,000. And then we have the middle school gym renovations, which in total, those would be approximately $1 million. We're still waiting out to see exactly what we'll have left for needs-based grant when the middle school is complete. So once we have that total, there may be a possibility that we may have to pair some of this money with those funds to finish that up. And the next one is, just to give you an idea of what we were appropriated for capital outlay this year, it was $66,124. $45,124 is what we transferred to local current expense fund to pay the $500 local supplement to all other non-teaching staff members, and that's what we are asking to permanently add to the local current expense fund. $12,701, that was a combination of several things: dump truck repairs, the high school high jump, and then Reese tree removal for removal of some trees that we had to get off campus before they fell. And then we have $8,299 of remaining funds that we have to use before June 30th, and we'll begin doing some summer planning, so that'll help fund some of our smaller summer projects over the summer. The next page is just a history of our appropriations since 2020, and you can see back in 2020 we had $100,000 appropriated to us. We dropped significantly in 21-22 to $35,000. We got $75,000 in 2023, back down to $35,000 in 24. This year, the $66,124. But to meet all the needs that we need to be met, that we're not gonna have access to other state funds for, $883,841 is what we need.
That's from the county.
That's from the county, yes. So in the last page, just some future county capital outlay considerations for down the road. At some point, we do need to address the field house. We either need a new one or some significant upgrades to that space for better use. We will need to refurbish that track around the football field, but I think the football field probably takes priority to that right now. And then the school bus garage parking lot needs to be resurfaced, but we really don't want to do anything with that until after the middle school's complete, because there's a lot of heavy equipment moving through there, so.
Do you remember when we did the turf? Was that the last time the track was refurbished as well? When the turf was originally installed?
Yes.
Is that right?
I do think there's been some minor repairs to it over the years, because there were some things wrong with it right
Right,
after.
they had to come back in and
Yeah, they had to come
fix
back and
a few
do some
things.
stuff, but
in
it's
terms of-
basically been that long too.
Yeah.
Any pressing questions?
I will say too that we didn't put everything that we need on here. We really tried to prioritize
Yes.
what we feel like are the things we need the most and are the most pressing. But we have really tried to be reasonable with what we're asking for,
Yes,
even though I know it's a lot of money.
yes,
I mean, I think obviously it's a lot of money, but I think the other side of that is it's a lot of things that have been wear and tear, lots of wear and tear over the years that haven't been. I mean, they've not been touched in 25 to years. So it's
Yeah.
a lot, and that's only going to get worse if we don't get some funds to help fix it. So, go ahead. Sure.
We did, just as a reminder, we did agree that this repaving the parking lot was only talking about the one below the football field there on the right.
that's right. The underclassmen parking area that's across from the main parking area, the gym. Yes.
Any other questions or comments? No.
Some of these things seem to be what we've tried to
Ask
ask
for.
for previously, and
And I think like the turf has been on there for a couple of
Yeah.
years.
yeah.
We were
Probably 4 or
hopeful
5
by
years.
putting what we could contribute that we, can maybe change that narrative a little bit. Just we
We still have a lot of options.
still have a lot of options, yeah. I also know that there's been some conversation about would it be better to go back to grass? And certainly there would have to be a lot of money invested to go back to grass because of all the work that was done underneath that to support the turf. But also if you consider that it's used for JV football, varsity football, men and women's soccer, it's used by our community rec league, and we don't have a practice field. So if you tried to go back to grass, there literally would not be very much available use because it would be very difficult to maintain it so that all the people that need to use it and for all the things it needs to be used for could access that.
Who has the practice field down there? The county?
Yeah.
The one that's right across
Across
from
the road.
maintenance is ours.
The old football,
The ones
is
we
ours.
used. Then the manpower, I mean, that's the other side of it.
Oh,
Then
right.
you've got the maintenance, you're gonna have to add maintenance people to keep grass up if you go back to grass, so,
I just-
Lawnmowers,
right, yeah,
tractors, aerators,
it's a lot.
Bermuda grass.
But also to consider too, though, over the years, they need to consider, and we need to consider also, there needs to be a plan for the next time.
To replace it,
Every
yeah.
10 to 15 years, you need to have it on the horizon, and there needs to be a plan for replacement of that turf again.
I think once we can figure out how to replace it, then we can start working on a plan
Yeah.
for how to not put ourselves in this situation
Yeah,
again.
wait
Has
until the
anybody
last
gone to the
minute.
commissioners meeting and why,
So-
why haven't they ever increased?
Well, I think there's just not
What's
been
their reason?
I mean,
I think there's just not been an increase in the tax rate. And so I think they genuinely have a lot of requests, and I think that they are very conscious of our people in our community that are on a fixed income. And so it's not that they're being stingy with what they have, they just don't, that tax base hasn't gotten larger over time. We are going to, Shelley and I, and perhaps Dr. Shook are going to present our budget at the commissioners meeting in April, just so we can kind of explain some of these things in more detail and answer any questions that they have. Because we're asking for a lot of money.
Yes.
But I also think it's stuff that has been kind of kicked down the road, to the point that it's, can't keep kicking it down the road. So hopefully they'll help fund that.
Yeah.
And most of it.
And I hate to say, but I feel like COVID kind of put us all back from, we're still trying to reel out from that as well.
Any other
Any
questions?
other? If there's not, then we need to approve that request, right? Need a motion for approval. You got questions? Are you good?
I'm good.
Good? Okay. All right, so is there a motion that we approve that budget request as it was presented?
Make a motion to approve the budget.
John,
As it is.
is there a second to that?
Second.
John, second. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Shelley. And then next we have the campus lawn care contracts approval.
And all this was uploaded into your folder on Google Drive. We received proposals for the upcoming lawn care season with a deadline of 3 p.m. on March the 7th. Mr. Livers did hold a pre-bid meeting with potential vendors on February 27th. We got a total of 6 proposals, with 3 proposals being withdrawn prior to consideration, and you can see that there. After review of the 3 remaining proposals, we are asking that we approve Chattoog Outdoor Services, which is Sean Crisp. He's been doing our lawn care for nearly 3 seasons now, at a price of $59,400.
So you have that recommendation that we approve, Chattoog Outdoor Services, that was the low bid of the 3, so is there a motion that we approve that? Or is there any questions about any of those?
Is that cheaper than us doing it? I mean, like,
Yeah, we don't have anybody or equipment.
didn't we used to, we didn't, how long have we not done that?
It's been,
This is about the third
or
season.
fourth
No,
season,
fourth,
no.
because we did have one other company that did it. Harkness Farms, I think, was who did it before.
so this will be the
So
5th year
about
that
the
we haven't done it.
fifth year. What you run into is if you add an additional staff member to do these services around campus, you're not only talking about a salary, but you're also talking about a benefits package to go along with it. You've got the retirement match, the FICA match that has to go along with it, as well as health insurance benefits, and then you incur raises every year after the state legislates those raises. So it kind of gets hard at some point to keep up with that, plus equipment. So that's kind of why we went this route.
And I think we lost, in essence, we lost one maintenance worker
We did.
during the mowing season, because that was all they did. All day, every day was mow or weed eat. So we were down one maintenance to keep all the buildings and stuff.
But this is cheaper than adding another person to the program.
This price is cheaper than when I was teaching here 30 years ago for this lawn care. So it's a good price.
How long does it take them to do it? How many days?
Well, I think he's
No,
here
he's here
a
a
couple of
good
days a
bit,
week,
yeah,
2 or 3
during the
days a week.
week.
I think he's here, yeah.
He's got a whole crew.
And he's got a crew that comes, yeah.
And that's the baseball, around the football, all that. That is correct. It's got
It's not baseball anymore, since we don't
Just
have those
the
fields.
banks,
the elementary, my bad.
yeah.
Sorry,
That used to be the baseball field.
The primary
Primary.
field.
Primary,
Yes.
yes. It did used to be the baseball field, but the
Baseball,
primary. And a few areas dropped off for this actual
Because of the,
proposal because of the
Construction.
construction. But then some of those bases will need to be added back in later.
any other questions or comments? Is there a recommendation that we approve Chattooga Outdoor Services?
I make the motion, we'll approve it.
Mr. Jones has a motion. Is there a second to that? Is there a second? Kelly seconds. All in favor?
No.
Yes.
Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you. Next, we have the pre-K tuition considerations.
So this conversation is just a continuation from last month. This presentation is the same, but I'll go through it for maybe somebody who wasn't here or anyone that's listening for the first time. The first slide is really just about the benefits of early education. I've had 3 kids who have gone through the pre-K program, and I could not say enough good things about what pre-K provides in terms of school readiness. It talks about here the bulleted list of what is really the focus of pre-K: approaches to play and learning, emotional and social development, health and physical development, language development and communication, and cognitive development. But it's a critical program that really benefits our community and our students in terms of their readiness for kindergarten. On the next slide, it talks about criteria for qualifying for NC Pre-K. What I mean by qualifying for NC Pre-K means that a student qualifies for NC Pre-K funding. And so in order to qualify for NC Pre-K funding, the child must be 4 years old on or before August 31st of the program year. A child that meets the age requirement is eligible for NC Pre-K if the child is from a family whose gross income is at or below 75% of the state median income. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Children of certain military families are also eligible without regard to income. In addition, up to 20% of age eligible children enrolled may have family incomes in excess of 75% of the state median income if they have documented risk factors in specific categories, including developmental disability, limited English proficiency, educational need, or chronic health condition. The reason that I wanted to bring this to your attention is just to make sure that the board is aware. We have 72 pre-K slots, which is 4 classrooms of 18. We receive NC pre-K funding for up to 52 slots. This year we had 48 of those slots filled, meaning that we offer services to 20 plus students that we do not receive any funding for whatsoever. The funding sources that we are using to sustain this program will eventually end, and we won't be able to sustain the cost. And so just wanted to bring this up for discussion. One of the questions that has come out of this is, well, if we only have 52 funded slots, why don't we just have 52 slots? And I think that if we did that, there is a certain population that would not be able to then, we're the only pre-K provider, so we would be removing an educational opportunity from a lot of working families or medium, middle class families wouldn't have an opportunity to attend pre-K if we only limited it to those that met the financial criteria. And I know for me, that would mean my children would have been able to attend pre-K, and I would never want that for our students. If they want to attend pre-K, then I would love for them to be a way for them to do that. The next slide talks about our funding, and so the column on the left talks about our projected revenue and what those sources are. You can see that our out of $590,000 of revenue, only $237,000 of that comes from NC Pre-K funding. We did receive some pandemic funds we were able to use this year, but of course all the pandemic funds have expired. We do collect $50 from students for snacks if they are not currently receiving NC Pre-K funding. We take some money from federal Title I and federal IDEA for pre-K. We're spending $151,000 out of our state at-risk fund, $6,127 out of our local current expense fund, and $69,000 out of our special revenue fund. If you look on the other side of the slide, you will see just without any supplies or additional costs, just the salaries, benefits of our teachers, our teacher assistants, and the director, substitutes, longevity, and yellow bus transportation. Our expenses are projected to be $623,000. So you can see we obviously have a deficit there. And that's even with using so many different funds to be able to provide pre-K for everyone. So one of the things that I wanted to bring up for consideration is a tuition payment for students who do not qualify for NC pre-K funding. So my thought on this is $50 per week. It would be $200 per month for the upcoming school year. If we did that in the bottom right corner, you would see that that would generate approximately $40,000. So that would cover our deficit. It really doesn't give a lot to put back into those funds, but it would cover our deficit. I think that this is a consideration that could be discussed annually, and we might need to look at gradually increasing it. Particularly that special revenue fund is an unrestricted fund, so to speak. I mean, we can use that for a lot of different things. And also that state at risk could be used for a lot of things, particularly with some of our behavioral challenges in middle and high school. Don't get me wrong, I think pre-K is really important. I just think it's important that we know what we're giving up to be able to provide it at no cost to families. We could also look at eliminating transportation. That would be about $6,000, and that varies each year depending on ridership. This year we're looking at $6,000. I think it's been as high, Shelley, as $11,000 before. So it varies, but that's coming out of our local expense fund. Basically, our transportation budget is to serve K-12, and so we're essentially contracting with our transportation department to transport those kids, and we have to provide funding back to the transportation department in order to provide that. Last month, this conversation was tabled because we wanted information about what are those income thresholds, and so the next slide is a new slide that was not there last week that you guys have in your packets, but it does give those thresholds for income as to who would qualify based on family size. So I emailed that to you all as well, but I wanted to make sure that you have that available to look at. The next slide is really just the caption of an article. We are not the only district struggling with this. This was an article that recently came out called "Is NC Pre-K Dying? Providers Say Low Funding Makes It Hard to Keep Up." And basically what's happening is expenses have kept going up, and the state has just not increased that reimbursement rate for us, and it's just made it very difficult to keep up. The last slide has information regarding our surrounding areas. Who offers pre-K? Do they charge tuition, and do they provide transportation? And so you can see that we are one of the few counties in the western region that we have data on that doesn't charge for pre-K. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention as we're talking about all the things that we need and what our needs are and how much those things cost. I wanted to just bring awareness to how much it's costing us to run pre-K for students that we don't receive funding for. Obviously not the conversation or recommendation I want to make. I think pre-K is critically important, but I also think it's important to remember that these kids that wouldn't qualify are kids that are currently paying for daycare. And some of them are in our daycare and they're paying $800 or more a month for childcare. So this would still be a significant cost savings.
Those students that you have.
ADM is their average daily membership, so it's like their enrollment.
Okay.
Yeah, how many students they have in the county.
Any questions, comments?
And most of the people that will pay $200 are already paying. I mean, they're used to paying $800, right? With
So
their daycare.
if they're in our
So,
daycare or even a the daycare prices across our county are pretty similar.
Right.
So most 4-year-olds you're going to be looking, if you're in daycare, you're looking at $800 or more. This would still be a significant cost savings, but it would offset our deficit.
And this will help those funds, alternative programs and schools and stuff.
Well, right now this would offset our deficit. If we wanted to get money back into that state at-risk fund, we would have to be looking at more than $200.
Right. But you got 12,000 right now, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't go very far, but
Well, yeah.
it would be a start. It would be a
It's
start.
better than zero.
It's better than
That's
zero,
right.
yes. Yeah.
Did you also notify all the parents?
We notified the parents that were picking up applications that this was a consideration. So we indicated that this was a discussion that would be taking place this month. We've not told them, since we don't have a decision yet one way or the other, but we did let them know it was a consideration. And I believe in universal pre-K. I think it should be free, but I also am responsible for informing you all of what our financial situation is.
Absolutely.
So,
I can't imagine putting a 4-year-old on a school bus anyway, but especially my boy.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I know, I'm like Ms. Godfrey, I think it's frustrating that we have to even have this conversation, number one, but I think number two is in light of, what we just talked about budget-wise with the things that we need, and obviously this is a very small portion, but I think it's something that we need to strongly consider using that money for K-12 education, which is our goal as a board. That's what we're assigned to do by the state, so. So we have a recommendation that we charge $200 per month for those kids who don't qualify for NC pre-K.
And no bus, right? No.
That's my recommendation.
Okay.
Okay. But I think there need to be two separate things. I think there needs to be a decision based on tuition and a decision based on
bus
transportation. Yeah. I did want to mention.
Yeah.
I did want to mention too that one of the questions was, what if we have 60 kids who meet the criteria? And so Lisa Birch did ask that question, and they said that they would push to give us additional slots. So that wasn't a guarantee, but that was that if you had more students than you had slots, that there would be a push to give us additional slots to cover those students. And our number of slots has gone up. We started a couple of years ago, we had 48, now we're at 52. So there has been an increase in the number of slots, just not a whole lot of increase in the actual reimbursement per student.
Is this the plan to revisit this each year as needed? Is that what we're kind of
Yes,
thinking
so
about?
I think this is a starting place, but I think that if we ever want to put money back into some of those funds that we're depleting, then we would have to look at perhaps an increase every year. But that would be at the pleasure of the board. It would just be important for you all to know what we're getting in terms of reimbursement. One of the things I talked to the teacher of the year about when she was here is this very thing. I showed her our spreadsheet and I said, this is really a critically important conversation. And she said she's heard that across the state. Pre-K reimbursements have just not kept up with the cost. So, but I do think it would need to be an annual consideration of what we, just in the same way we did with daycare, what are we going to charge, and what are our needs, and that'd be an annual discussion. But I think this is somewhere to start.
Any other questions or comments? So we have the recommendation that we do $200 a month for those kids who do not qualify for the North Carolina pre-K slot. Is there a motion that we?
And that's for 24 or 25, 26?
25, 26. Next school year.
Next school year, yeah, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'll make a motion that we do the $200 tuition.
okay,
For the
so we
pre-K.
have a motion,
I'll
and Ms.
second.
Crawford seconds that. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And then now the question is the recommendation, to not provide transportation to pre-K as well for the 2025-2026 school year. So that recommendation has been made. Is there a motion that we make a motion?
I'll make a recommendation that we eliminate transportation for
Okay.
the.
So no pre-K transportation
pre-K
for the
transportation.
25-26 school year. So we have a motion from Mr. Ash. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, Ms. Crawford seconds that motion. All in favor?
I would oppose that. I would like maybe, oppose that.
Okay. So we have 3 ayes, and Mr. Caldwell has opposed that, so the motion passes. So very good. Thank you all. Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda. And I do want to make a note that, under the policies for approval, policy 3620, extracurricular activities and student organizations, I'd like to pull that one out if we can and wait till next month on that one. The reason being, there was some verbiage in there with regards to homeschool students, and we're still waiting some input from some stakeholders in that before we finalize that verbiage.
Yeah,
So if we
that
can-
policy has 3 options for homeschool students, participation in extracurricular activities. That's something that we need a bit more input on before we make a decision there.
So when we look at approving the consent agenda, it would be all of what is there except for policy 3620. Take that one out and do that one next month. So is there a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented with that change? Mr. Caldwell makes that motion. Is there a second? Mr. Jones seconds. All in favor? Thank you.
I can talk about this
Tentative
after.
board
Yeah.
training? Yep.
So, you all probably know that our school board is required to complete annual training, and so recently I surveyed the board regarding what topics they felt would be most pertinent for us to cover in our training, as well as days of the week that work best. So I have created a tentative board training schedule. These are all on Monday evenings, starting in May and going through October. This has the topics that would be covered at each one. This would be training that's provided through the North Carolina School Board Association. And so these dates I have not gotten approved with the board. I just wanted to put it out there and also just let the public know that we will be announcing these at the same time we announce our next board meeting. We will be announcing the training so the public's aware that the board will be together for this training and what we're going to be covering. And of course, those trainings are open to anyone who'd like to come. Just
You
want to,
need some good sleep
if you need,
medicine.
yeah, they're very intriguing. So you all please come. But wanted to let you know that we will plan to gather on these dates tentatively for that training, but we will confirm these dates each month at the board meeting to let you all know for sure when the board will be gathering for these trainings.
Thank you. And you'll email us all of those, so we will.
They're in your folder.
They're in the folder. Okay. They
Yes.
are. Sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you. So, is there a motion that we go into closed session for?
Make motion to go in closed session.
Josh?